Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Mitch Waite. This is the Dwelt Podcast. I'm here with Chris Hardman, Dan Jensen, and Koda Mariako. And we're going to kick this off with a segment with Koda. We have a lot to talk about today, but one of the things we were able to pull in Koda as an expert because we talked about gold-backed currencies in our last episode, and we had some questions about that. A lot of people who are preparing are setting aside, adding to their safes, burying in the backyard, precious metals. So we're able to get Koda on to help us talk through all of those things. Welcome, Koda. We're so glad you're here with us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Do you want to kick us off by telling us a little bit about how you got into precious metals and, what your background is and what you do with precious metals?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely can. This website, my website was called defythegrid.com. It sounds like a pretty good gold and silver website, but it started off as a solar panel website. As a prepper,
Oh, okay.
I loved putting things on there that I truly believed in. I mean, I had solar panels on there. I had de-Googled phones on there. I had, a lot of kind of off the grid type things on the website. And then I also added gold and silver. I had some pushback from some of the other vendors of gold and silver. They were saying, "Hey, what are you doing dealing with this guy? He has a website full of stuff." And then gold and silver, is he really even a dealer? And so at that point, I made a choice to just sell gold and silver on my website. Although I will admit I'm a pretty firm believer in all of the other stuff.
Is that a local issue where there's competition locally, or is it like nationwide? Hey, this guy can't sell gold and silver. We're selling gold and silver.
Yeah, pretty much nationwide. I think, I mean, we're a very small threat because we're a very small company. We don't have, I mean, maybe we have like 10,000 customers worldwide, but compared to the big dogs, that's pretty small. But one thing that I did notice is we were able to outprice and undercut a lot of our distributors, a lot of other dealers, and maybe they just wanted to push us out a little bit farther.
Yeah, they don't want anybody coming in and selling, close to the actual strike price. They like inflated coins and all that kind of stuff. When you got into this, was there any concern? I mean, one of the things we talked about last episode was that anytime somebody goes into precious metals, like tries to back a currency with gold or silver, it seems like they have an untimely death. Have you had any concerns about, three-letter agencies or banks or any external forces like trying to prevent you from doing this? Not even just within the hard metals, precious metals industry, but beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, with the Goldback specifically, that's what really got us started is the Goldback, and I was never really too concerned about it because I wasn't the one actually minting the gold notes. And but when I did look at it, they before they launched the Goldback, they did some case studies, especially with what is it called? It's not the Euro dollar, the Liberty dollar.
Okay.
And have you heard of the Liberty dollar before?
I have, but I'm sure
Okay.
many of our listeners haven't. So do you want to
Yeah.
maybe share a little background of that?
Yeah, definitely. The Liberty dollar was, and again, do your own research too, because I might not have it all 100% pinned down. It was a minted coin with a dollar value on it. It could have been $5, $10, $20 on a 1 ounce silver coin. And people would actually bring these to the store and be able to spend them. And the cost to manufacture it was a lot less than what the face value was, at least at the time. When the silver price went up, what they would do is they would return the Liberty dollars to the mint, and they would essentially restrike it with a higher face value on it. And but yeah, they got shut down. I mean, it went for several years, but then it got shut down. But one of their biggest no-nos
What
that they
was it
did.
that got them? Yeah, what got them shut down?
Well, they were competing with the actual dollar. Um, One of the biggest no-nos that they did was they put a $1 or like an actual dollar sign to make it look like it was United States dollar. They also put popular art on the front of the coin, and it all in all, it looked like um, it looked like U.S. currency, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, it
One
seemed to
way
me like
that
they were
so
seemed
Yeah,
to
go
me
ahead.
like they were actually doing quite a bit of advertising for it. Like, I don't want to say, if it was Alex Jones or Glenn Beck, but it seemed like there was quite a bit of advertising, convert to Liberty dollars, get your Liberty dollars. And I'm sure the Federal Reserve didn't like that. And whoever, the Treasury was probably like, hey, this is confusing people.
Yeah, I wish I lived in that time period, um, to really be able to know, like, the advertising. I'm sure probably Alex Jones would probably have advertised that if
Yeah, I would
he
think
was
so.
around back then. Oh, he
Yeah.
did.
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying that type of person,
Yeah.
or that type of show was promoting that stuff.
Yeah. But when we got started, I mean, I looked at the Goldback, I read their entire report. You can go to goldback.com, and they have like a whole article that lists off how the Liberty dollar failed, and then what the Goldback did differently to avoid some of those failures. One thing that you'll notice on the Goldback, there's nothing that says dollar on it. Actually, it um, says the opposite. Okay, yeah, not U.S. Dollar legal tender on, just really small right there.
Cool.
But it is a negotiable instrument, and for the most part, we've used these goldbacks as like a bartering instrument. We've even like put them inside our emergency packs because we know that our dollars are being worth less and less. But if you put these in your emergency packs, it doesn't matter if you pull your emergency pack out in 10 years, you're still going to have the same amount of gold.
That's cool. So how did the Goldback get started?
It got started with an idea. I mean, there were several prototypes that came out um, with the Goldback, and it had a lot of different art, and but it was just an idea. They got started with $1 million on I think it was a loan or investment, and yeah, it got started from that.
So somebody was like, I want to create an alternate currency that's backed with gold. I'm going to go get $1 million, print a bunch of these, and put them in circulation. And how long ago was that?
2019, about
Okay.
the middle of 2019 was when it first got started.
Okay. So we're 5 years into it. And what's the deployment of the currency looking like? Like, who uses it? How do they use it? You mentioned as a barter instrument. Who's accepting these, and how do they use them?
Yeah. So to find an easy way, let's say you're not as charismatic and you don't know how to barter as well. You can go to goldback.com, and as long as you live in Utah, Nevada, New Hampshire, Wyoming, or South Dakota, there's a list of different vendors that accept goldbacks as payment. One that you might find familiar, actually in your neck of the woods, is in Spring City. There's a restaurant called Das Cafe. I
Yeah.
spend my
Yeah. I'm
goldbacks
familiar with
there.
it.
I spend my goldbacks there all the time. It works out because I think that their Rubens, although they're excellent, um, they're overpriced, and so I use the goldback as kind of like an instant 5 or 10% off. And anyone can do that. Even if you buy the goldback on our website and then you spend it, you're actually saving 5 to 10% every time you spend a goldback.
Is that just through inflation?
No, because the actual street exchange rate is higher than what you can buy it on our website.
Oh, got it. So how does
So
somebody find out the street exchange rate?
you go to goldback.com, and they have like a calculator there that could uh, that shows you what the suggested retail rate is, or the suggested
Okay.
exchange rate.
So you're like, this person bought a $12 sandwich. That equates to 3 Goldbacks. And so I'll take 3 Goldbacks in exchange for the sandwich.
Yep.
Cool.
I have a question. I noticed on that Goldback you showed us, it says Utah Goldback. Is this just a Utah thing, or are there other states involved?
Yeah. So a little bit of background behind that, the Utah Goldback, the reason why they separated into states, so Utah, Nevada, New Hampshire, is the state has certain legal protections on gold currency or yeah, currency. And if the federal government or the Federal Reserve, they have a problem with the Goldback, they have to, what Goldback Inc. is going to say, or what the attorneys are going to say is, I don't know, just contact the state. And then the state will be the deciding factor whether it gets shut down or maintains.
Okay. So each state has jurisdiction over these.
Yes. So, but yeah, this a Goldback, a Utah Goldback, you can spend anywhere. It's essentially a bartering instrument. Gold is gold. And there's a suggested retail rate on these or exchange rate on these. And I mean, if you can convince someone to use a Goldback, there's really no stopping you.
So you said there's a database online of companies that accept Goldbacks?
Yep, that's right. Goldback.com. And it's a little tricky because there's a database of people who are willing to publicly announce, hey, I accept the Goldback. There are lots of companies out there that are like, yeah, we want to accept it, but we don't want to be put on a list. And to be a target maybe by like credit card processors. By the way, our credit card got canceled a few days ago, and they will not tell us why.
Well, that's interesting.
I guess this is like breaking news right here that I'm telling you guys.
Going public with it.
Yeah,
the persecution begins.
Yeah, we don't have a business credit card anymore. And the crazy thing is they won't tell us why they canceled it, but I suspect it's because we're a gold and silver dealer.
Wow, that's crazy. We're glad you're still willing to deal then, even in spite of that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So, Chris, does that answer your question about the different states?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just pulled up your website, and yes, I was just looking at this to understand it better, because I've never heard of this. This is very new to me.
Yeah,
so,
do me a favor. Go ahead and scroll up, and then go ahead. You're in the collectible section. Go to the left so look at the frame. Go up 1 and 2, and that's kind of like your navigation. And then click on just Goldbacks. There you go. So what you did is you went into like the collectors section. Goldbacks from 2019 are worth quite a bit more than the Goldbacks that they're making right now. So if you got in early, man, you could have like 10x'd your money.
Is that because of the gold quantity or limited supply? They're just more rare?
Yeah, they only made, so just the 50s, they only made about 2,700 50s. And those are pretty rare collector's items right now.
So that Nevada Goldback is worth $230 right now, where you could have bought that for $50 back then?
Back then, well, so that Nevada, that's like a current issue. That's the one that we're sending out.
Oh, but, okay.
Yeah, I mean, right now, that Nevada 50. If it was a 2020 version, it would be, I think, probably like in the $500 range or so. Only one way. Yeah, you'll probably have to do a lot of scrolling to see.
There's a Utah, a 2020 50 Utah Goldback, and it's about $500.
Yeah.
So how is that amount determined? Like when it says almost $500 there, like if I were to buy that right now, are you saying that it's going to increase in value every year?
Yeah. I mean, they don't make any more of them. Sometimes, when they're in circulation, they get scratches on them and, less people want them. But if they're that old, that's like that's like a first edition type Goldback, and the value is determined based on how many are minted in that year. So let's say that someone, a common example is I have customers all the time buying Goldbacks for the first time, and they buy them, they receive them, everything looks awesome, and they realize, oh, this is 2024. What if I want a 2019 Goldback? And then they'll ask me, hey, can I get a 2019 Goldback? And I'll refer them to the page, and then where they'll be like, whoa, the price is so high. Why is it so high? Well, I would answer them, well, it's because there's a lot of people just like you who just bought 2024 Goldbacks who want the earlier years. And it's a supply and demand question, essentially.
That's cool. So it's acting like real currency should, because you can't go and, well, I guess you could go print a bunch of new ones, but you don't have quantitative easing with Goldbacks. Yeah. We've been talking about this in terms of current currency use, where it's like, okay, you can use these to exchange for value right now, but do you see these becoming more useful if things like dollar collapses, or there's a succession crisis in the presidency, or war breaks out somewhere that we're really nervous about, maybe Taiwan? Do these have a place in our more calamitous future world?
Well, that's really funny because all those three options seem like they're just over the horizon in our current situation right now.
Oh yeah.
This is how I go about things. I keep them in my emergency pack. Okay. But before I even put them in my emergency pack, I had my emergency pack pretty much assembled. I would say, and this is not what a normal gold and silver dealer would say, is I would first say just make sure that you can survive first. Like, meaning make sure you have enough food and water, and that like your shelter is you have a good shelter, and then after all is said and done, with your excess, buy gold and silver for storing wealth in the future. That's my honest opinion on things. Now, people can do as they please, but I've never seen anyone get rich off of holding gold and silver for a long time. I mean, right now, about 400 gold coins, or actually, I think it's about 200 gold coins, can buy a house, whereas in the past, back 1901, for 200 gold coins bought you a house as well.
Okay, that's good input. You mentioned a store of value. We do have a lot of followers who have bought precious metals. They throw them in the safe. They hold on to them. Maybe they bury them in the backyard, build a treasure map, whatever. But that seems to be a thing in the prepper community, where they say, okay, I need something with intrinsic value that can be exchanged. What are your thoughts on, if you have the means, how much should you put into gold and silver, and what denominations should you get? What size coins or bullion should you get? What's your recommendation? I know everybody's different, but just generally.
Yeah, I would. So for Goldbacks, what would I recommend the most? It would probably be 1s, 5s, or 10s, and that being because with a 1 right now you can buy a dozen eggs, you can buy a loaf of bread with a 1. With a 5, let me pull it out here. You could probably pay off like a quarter of your grocery bill going into the grocery store. And then a 10 would be about half of your grocery bill at the grocery store. Now, asking how much should one person buy if they have the means? Personally, if I would say if you're using Goldbacks and you're using it as an exchange, I would say the sky is the limit. Buy as many as you can, because you're just going to use them, right? If you're using them right now. If you're not really using them and you just want a store of value, I would say, get coins. This is a 1889 double eagle gold coin, or even some silver coins right here. If you're looking at storing value, let me go ahead and show you something about the Goldback and for storage of value purposes.
While he's doing that, I pulled up the map of businesses in Utah that accept the Goldback, and I'm surprised how many there are. There's tons of them.
Are you disappointed that Wait Utah Beef is not on that? We've been thinking about it. So we have, our beef company, and I'm like, okay, well, beef is pretty expensive. You're talking a few grand for a full beef, and so if I took that all in Goldbacks, I would be concerned. How can I deploy that out to buy the fencing materials that I need, or fuel for the trucks to, haul feed or anything like that. So maybe you can help address kind of those things to business owners or individuals that are thinking about taking Goldbacks.
Okay. So what I was going to show you here, this is a 1 ounce, essentially a 1 ounce coin. This right here is 1,000 Goldbacks, and it's essentially 1 ounce, but this weighs about 5 pounds right here. So for storage purposes, if you have like a lot of money that you're wanting to, and you don't know what to do with, you have your solar, you have your food, and your animals and everything, I would probably prefer this over the Goldbacks, because this is you can put it in your backpack a little bit easier. Where if you put this in your backpack, you have a 5 more pounds, which is incredibly heavy compared to 1 troy ounce.
That's awesome. I think the opposite is probably also true, because I have had concerns about buying coinage, and I'm like, well, if I buy gold coins, where am I going to spend a gold coin when it all comes down to it? So then it's like, okay, how do I dice up a gold coin and actually spend with it? So you get smaller silver coins that you can exchange and stuff like that. Not that we have a bunch of coins, but so don't come to my house looking for them. But it seems like storing value in coins or bullion is easy, but spending it becomes significantly more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is. I'll tell you too. There is that list of companies that accept Goldbacks. There also is a lot of people who would accept Goldbacks who don't want to advertise that they accept Goldbacks. I'll give you a few examples. Our solar installer, he came over, and he gave me a bid and quote. We just chit chatted a little bit. I could tell he was a prepper, and he had the same kind of mindset as I did. And I just gave him a Goldback. I'm like, oh, I think you'd appreciate this. And I give it to him. He asked me questions for about 5 minutes. And then after I answered his questions, he's like, well, can you pay me with these? And I didn't even ask him, but he was essentially, he was gravitating towards the idea of, I see where this could be very handy, where in this day, if you spend crypto, even though we like to say it's private, you can't. Just watch true crime for a little bit, and you'll learn that almost nothing is private. I mean, but he saw the value in the Goldback. Also, another business that's getting shut down left and right are gun stores and stores that sell ammo. Overwhelmingly, they're probably the biggest adopters of the Goldback, because they see that, all of my customers pay with cash because of the trackability aspect, or it decreases trackability. But they're seeing the writing on the walls, where if cash is done away with, what happens to all those customers? Oh, they're probably going to go buy it from, their neighbor or something like that. But a lot of gun stores are adopting the Goldback as payment because they don't want to lose that customer base that loved paying with cash.
That's cool. I can definitely see a place for that as CBDC becomes, a common household term. I mean, 3 years ago, nobody knew what CBDC was unless you're in the crypto space, and now, or in banking, and now everybody understands what that is, a centralized CBDC,
Central
central bank digital currency. Sorry, it was the
Thank
centralized
you.
that threw me off.
I'm glad you said that because I'm one of the people that does not know what that is.
So the
Well,
idea,
pretty
Dan.
new.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I went snowboarding and I stayed the night at a banker's house because my friend's dad is a banker, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, what do you think about the CBDCs coming up? Central current, the digital currency, and he had no idea what I was talking about.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So the idea, Dan, is that the Fed will come out with a central digital currency, a Bitcoin, an official Bitcoin type thing, a crypto coin. But with that, every transaction will go into a ledger. So if you want to tip your waiter, you're going to do it with CBDC instead of with cash. They'll make cash illegal. And so every transaction will be recorded and available for government oversight, available for legal examination. And a lot of people are concerned. And, the answer is, well, if you're not doing anything bad, you shouldn't be concerned. But, privacy is a First Amendment right that we have. We're born with it. We come with it. We need to keep it. And so a lot of people are really concerned. The proponents are like, oh, this is great. It's going to stop money laundering and fraud and, drug transactions and stuff like that. But yeah, it's pretty concerning for those who are concerned about privacy and being able to transact without the government being in your business.
Yeah, let's also go a step further. Let's say that the government just decides, oh, cows are bad, farts are bad, it's destroying the environment. We're going to limit one hamburger per week for each citizen, and they would only your currency, your digital currency, would be programmed to only allow you to buy one hamburger a week or so many. And one of the big reasons every time you buy a flight, it tells you what your green score is, or gosh, what's it called?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like what your eco impact is.
Yeah. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to count up how many eco impacts you get and see what's reasonable. And actually, it might not be reasonable what they allow you, and it might come out to you're only able to buy one plane ticket a year, and good luck on getting the return flight, or you're only able to buy so many gallons of gas a year, and good luck if you run out of eco impacts. There's so many different things. I mean, they could let's say that whoever's pulling the strings with what you're allotted, let's say that they have a buddy who's selling toothpicks, and they want to increase the amount of business that goes to their buddy, and so they'll increase everyone's budget to only be spent on toothpicks. Now, if you have so much money left over and it can only go towards toothpicks, well, what are you going to do? You're going to buy toothpicks and essentially support that secret combination. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, my connection dropped. I apologize for that. So before I appreciate the time you're spending with us on this. I wanted to ask about risks. So, I mean, many of our listeners don't believe this is even possible or fathomable, but what are the risks with Goldbacks? I mean, if the dollar all of a sudden becomes really valuable, if the Fed does such a great job at managing interest rates and the dollar spikes and treasuries improve in value, where does that leave the Goldback? And what are some of the other risks with Goldback or even holding precious metals as a store of value?
Okay. Number one risk of Goldbacks, which isn't there right now. Actually, let's see. Yeah, number one risk is if someone comes out with a fake Goldback, that would be a risk right there. Goldback has put in some security features, like for example, the reverse. You can feel the reverse image. You can also see it there too. But the feeling it is probably one of the best security features. It's very hard to duplicate. If you hold it up to the sun, you can get like almost like a purple hue of the sun shining through the really thin layer of gold. That's all I can really think of. But I would say the biggest risk to gold and silver are actually fakes. Here's actually a pile of fakes that we've collected. And some of these are really good fakes. Like that looks like a 1903 Morgan silver dollar.
Wow. Yeah.
And it actually weighs the same. It has about the same dimensions, but it's not made out of silver. It's probably made out of copper. Here's another one. It's they're trying to fake an American silver dollar. You can tell. So when you flip it, that's actually supposed to be right side up, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
not. So I mean, there is like a flaw there. Also, what do you call it? This it's trying to mimic a proof. Proofs don't look like that, and just the lettering is not correct or how it should be.
Okay, so I've got
Yeah.
I've got a question about this because I know that some of the big sellers online, you can go buy a silver coin, and if it's a an American eagle or a Canadian maple leaf, it's a lot more expensive than a I don't know a 1992 race coin or something like that has the same amount of silver and the same weight, and yet the less official looking coin seems to be significantly less expensive. I mean, 20% less expensive. Do you feel like if you're using it as a store of value, does it when you go to recognize that value, either officially turning it into you and getting cash out for it, or barter and exchange, is there additional value with the official American Eagle coins or something else?
Yeah, there is, and one. So I feel like I have to explain kind of like the demand side of it. There's a lot of big money buying silver American Eagles. I got a real one right here. There's a lot of demand of people buying these silver eagles. There's actually retirement advisors that they will only sell their clients silver American eagles because it is the coin of America. You also have that, so that's the demand side of things, right? There's big
Okay.
money piling into silver eagles. The supply side, the U.S. Mint is not keeping up with the production of silver eagles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So eventually, right, when they do keep up, eventually the premium will go to a reasonable number. Like I think it's normal is $2 over spot. But right now we're kind of in like a weird area where the prices of these are quite a bit higher than spot, which is actually quite annoying. When we built our house, I used a lot of concrete, and I had a box of silver eagles, and instead of turning it into fiat and realizing that capital gain, I wanted to trade it for concrete. And I approached the concrete guy, and I'm like, hey, look, I have this box. Are you interested in a trade? And he said, yeah, sure. What's the market price right now? And I was like, well, you can buy them for this price. He's like, no. What's the spot price? And the spot price was about $5 less than what you can buy it for. And so there I was, the Silver Eagle probably wasn't the best option to use for trading. And there I was, taking a $5 haircut off of the actual value of my coin. But the great thing about the Goldback is the recommended exchange rate is posted on goldback.com. And so there's really no, like, I'll give you spot for it, right? No, the Goldback's worth quite a bit more. And I've had no problem ever spending Goldbacks at the recommended exchange rate.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I need to.
Yeah, with these silver coins, there's no recommended exchange rate except for maybe the spot price.
Okay. So I need to, I mean, if I had some coins, I should come meet with you or go to your website and look at converting some of those at least into Goldbacks. They make sense for being able to exchange at a current value, an agreed upon value, but also it's much easier to spend 1, 5s, and 10s than it is to spend a gold coin or a silver coin or something like that. And then I will look into.
I'll also add one more thing. If you buy a 1 ounce silver eagle, and let's say you want to sell back at the same day, there's actually a $1 difference between the buy and the sell price. If you buy like a 1 ounce silver round, there's actually, just today, there's a 60-cent difference between the buy and the sell price. So a lot of times when you're buying, before you buy, you want to look at, okay, what can I sell it for? What avenues are there for me to sell this back at? Or am I able to trade it? Who would trade in my community for gold and silver? Do they have services or products that I want? Analyze that first before you actually make the purchase. And I promise you, you'll probably make a million times better decision after you do that.
Awesome. Well, Koda, I could keep you here all day, but I know that we've got to get on to the rest of our show. Thank you so much. We'd love to have you back in the future and talk more about all sorts of things, precious metals and preparedness. So thanks for the advice you've given us today. And anyway, we look forward to having you back again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, that was great. I learned a lot, and I need to make some different decisions with how I sell beef. Maybe we'll say that. It'd be interesting to be able to take some Goldbacks. My son went and worked at a neighbor's house, and they gave him a Goldback, and he was like, "What the crap is this?" And so now we know. This is great. While we were chatting, Chris messaged me with some breaking news. Which by the time this podcast gets published will be all over the news, but it is yeah, Chris's soundboard over there. Yeah,
that's a scary sound.
It's an emergency. We have breaking emergency news.
Wow.
Donald Trump has been convicted of all 34 felony charges in New York.
Man, this is wild.
Sentencing has not happened yet, but seems like 34 felonies. He's probably going to jail.
Yeah.
I am honestly, so you mentioned you're going to predict this. I'm in shock. I actually cannot believe they actually did it.
Oh yeah. I have it in my show notes. I'm like, Trump will be convicted. And I was going to share a tweet by somebody who did a whole thing. In fact, maybe I'll pull it up while we're on here. Yeah, this is pretty insane. This is unprecedented here in the U.S. Pretty common for a banana republic, but didn't we just freak out recently about Putin putting someone in prison? One of his competitors.
Yep. Yeah, didn't he just put his biggest rival in prison, and then his biggest rival died?
Yep. Yeah. So
Navalny or something. I don't know his name.
Man.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. This is, let's see, Liz Wheeler on X. So she says, I generally avoid predictions. Let me zoom in on this. But here's my prediction of what will happen in this Trump trial. Trump will be convicted. This is due to a biased jury and radical leftist judge. In reality, he's innocent, which is obvious from the facts of the case, but nonetheless, he'll be convicted. Trump will then be the convicted felon that Democrats want for campaign ads. Will Trump go to prison? Not right away. The Democrats will use the convicted felon, criminal, facing prison time language in the lead up to the election, but they won't dare send him to prison before Election Day because it would energize Trump's base 10 times more than the epic Trump mugshot. The Democrats will try to cheat again and rig the election again to prevent Trump from getting to the White House. They'll probably be successful in their cheating due to the fact that Republicans have done nothing to counter the Democrat electioneering of 2020. Subsequently, if Joe Biden wins the election, Trump most likely won't go to prison because Democrats will be wide-eyed, innocent liars when they claim we don't want it to appear that we're targeting political enemies. But if Trump wins because Republican voter turnout is so enormous it overcomes Democrat cheating, then Trump will be sent to prison. When? When the radical leftist Marxist Democrats who hate our country and us are ready for a revolution. Because if Trump is sent to prison, even as POTUS, it will spawn political violence. The left knows this, and it's what they want. The Democrats will try to blame Trump supporters for the violence, but ultimately, remember, it's not conservatives who want violence. It's the bloodthirsty communist left who want a civil war. They want unrest, riots, anarchy, violence, because it will allow them to usurp our rights in the name of safety and democracy, to overthrow our system of Republican government and instead impose tyranny that they admit they want. 2025 isn't going to be pretty. And her post goes on and on. But yeah.
Well, they set his sentencing for July 11th. So that is when he will be sentenced. Tucker Carlson just posted import. Never mind. I'm not going to read it. The part I wanted to read is this. This won't stop Trump. He'll win the election if he's not killed first. And I agree with that. I think he can win. Even if they put him in prison, I think he'll win.
Yeah, it'll rally the base. The thing that's crazy is, okay, so let's play this out. If he does win, can he take office? And if he does take office, he can pardon himself.
He can pardon himself.
Which would be unprecedented, but yeah, this is crazy.
Well, look, the Ezra's eagle prophecy says his feather will not be heard from again. So I never expected him to get back into office. I don't think she's right, though, that Biden can win the election. I don't think that's in the cards either. There's something else is going to happen between now and then.
If he's the only option, he'll win.
But he won't be. He won't be. And it's so bad now that I just can't even imagine that there's a way they can cheat their way out of this.
Dude, this is the thing, though. We've been watching this for years now, and like commenting on it, talking about it, and so many of our followers, so many of our friends are like, "This is going to happen," and here we're living in it, and it's freaking surreal. This is crazy.
It's crazy to like have this prophecy that we've all been following for so long, and it keeps playing out. It just keeps happening.
Yeah, I think somebody shared with me once, it's probably wrong or just made up on the spot, but it was like the probability of Ezra's eagle lining up with the presidents of the United States is like 10 to the 37th power.
Yeah, I think I sent you that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's mind-boggling how accurate it is when it's checked out. So, man,
I can't believe they did it. I really can't believe it. But here we are. I was on a phone call the other day, on a kind of a networking call, and one of the guys was kind of joking about how I used to be on X and I could say whatever I wanted. Now I'm like very careful about what I say. And the guy leading the call replied with, "Yeah, back when we lived in America." I was like, what a great line. Back when we lived in America.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, the constitutionally designed America died back in the 1860s. So, or even before then, actually. But we can get into
Leland
that.
and I talked about that on our first episode of Watchmen. That in Doctrine and Covenants, God is already telling Joseph Smith that the enemies are already combined. Like even back then, it was too late. Like the country had been subverted.
Well, and he actually, the Lord in Doctrine and Covenants tells Joseph Smith what will happen to the country if they continue down the path, if they don't come to the defense of the saints. And it says it will be destroyed. And naysayers are like, no, the country's still around. And it's like, well, is it the same? Because my great-great-grandfather was able to walk to a place and go, this is my land. I'm going to put a fence around it. I'm going to maintain it. This is mine. Like if he wanted to go hunt or fish, he just did. If he wanted to grow something, he just grew. If he wanted to build something, he just built it. If he wanted to publish something, he just published it. If he wanted to defend himself and his family, he could. And it's like all of that is gone or heavily regulated. Like we can't do any of those things. And so it's not the same.
This is
And
even like more obvious than the Nixon stuff. It's so bad. Yeah. I mean, all that stuff you just said, plus this kind of like they're putting the leading presidential candidate into prison. Like America's gone. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, this is insane. I hate to quote Owen Benjamin because I think people get the wrong idea. I mean, the guy's a comedian, so he's all about the shock, and he says a ton of racist stuff. So I probably shouldn't even be quoting him because racism is bad, everyone. But he says this: I think people are starting to see that just waking people up doesn't do anything unless they then change their lifestyle to do solutions. And he goes on to say that people tell him all the time, because he checked out of Hollywood, he checked out of the comedy business, bought a farm in Idaho and grows his own food and live streams on whatever platforms every day. And that's what he does. And people tell him, oh man, I wish I was rich so I could grow my own food. That must be nice. And he's like, no, like we actually have to change the way we live. And I think, all of us are staring this in the face that here we are down at my property, trying to grow our own food, trying to become more independent. My wife was telling me this morning, she's like, oh, for breakfast, I had milk from our goats and eggs from our chickens and sourdough from our sourdough start and something on top of the bread goat cheese goat milk cheese that she made and some homemade butter. And so it's like, she's like, I'm trying to be self-sufficient. So we're actually taking action because we are in this awful situation. But it's fun to see so many of our followers begin to take action. Dan, you talked about getting some gas cans. Like that was probably one of the best investments you could have made. Your value is going to double in those 20 gallons of gas here in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see people take action. Chris, you messaged me something the other day about rucking, where you went out and put on a 45-pound pack and went 6.5 miles. Like that's huge.
Yeah, I used to do it all the time as part of my training, but it's been a couple of years. And so Micah Moore, friend of mine, we're planning the Golden Plate run together. He's a race director. And so I was like, since we're doing the Golden Plate run where people are going to be carrying weight, let's go rucking and talk about this race. So that's what we did. It ended up being like, just under 7 miles. And it had been a while, so I haven't done this in a couple of years, but by the end of it was like 2.5 hours. I was like, I'm in trouble if I have to carry weight anywhere, like for an extended period of time.
Yeah. We talk about, so I've got children that live 50 miles away from us. And if in the event of a collapse or an emergency, if they can't get their vehicles here, I'm planning on walking there and picking them up. But I'm planning on ponying a horse or two behind me so that they can carry my water and my gear and stuff like that. The fear is if the collapse happens and I'm walking with a horse, somebody's going to take that horse from me, right? Because they'll be like, oh, it's food, it's transportation, whatever it is. So I was talking with a friend about, how far do you think you can go carrying everything that you need on your back per day? And I was like, maybe 10 miles. Like if I have to carry everything that I'm going to use to survive, I'm probably going 10 miles a day because I'm going to have to stop and rest. I'm going to have to stop and filter water. Like it's pretty jarring, the difficulty of traveling overland in a situation where it's grid down or whatever. But that's the virtue bringing it back to Dwelt, that's the virtue of Dwelt. We have that distance between us and population centers where, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to take a couple of days, 3 days, maybe 4 days to get to your Dwelt location in the event of an EMP. But at least you'll have a place to go to where you have resources and a community and some security. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
for sure. So I'm suggesting to everybody that you get a hand cart added to your emergency prep list. Start building your hand carts.
There's a company out there that's selling prepper hand carts, but they're like $1,500 and they're made of plastic and the wheels are too small. And you can get a real Pioneer hand cart for $1,500 and it's made out of wood. So if it breaks, you can just shape more wood and nail it back on there. I have sprinklers out in one of my fields that have the big metal wheels on them, like a wheel line. I can move that sprinkler through my field, even though the alfalfa or the grass is 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep. And so I'm actually thinking I'm going to start putting together some aluminum hand carts out of those sprinkler wheels because they're so lightweight and easy to roll.
That'd be cool. I was just thinking, I've got my Costco wagon, the collapsible wagon you can get at Costco.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So at least I have one level. I think what you're talking about is like 2 or 3 levels up that I need to achieve. But at least I know I can toss 6 backpacks inside that wagon and get my
and
kids
pull it
to
down
help
the road.
drag it.
Yeah. I think
the hand cart sounds better though.
I think bikes will be incredibly valuable in the future. So you should definitely pick up a bike or two. Even those bike strollers where you pull the kids behind the bike. If you can get one of those, then you could throw your pack and your food and your kids in there and then bike if roads are intact. The other thing is early on when I started prepping, I think I went on Amazon and bought some deer carts. So they're actually carts made to carry a deer carcass for hunters. So they collapse down and you can, walk up a trail with them. They have pretty big wheels that are solid rubber. So I got a couple of those thinking, well, if I have to walk, at least I'll have a cart designed to carry 100 pounds or 120 pounds over rough terrain. So that's one thing to think about.
Yeah, that's good. We used to have a stroller like a jogging stroller that had giant bike tires on it.
Oh yeah.
So that would actually be kind of cool if you needed to throw some stuff in it and you could push it. Might be a little easier than loading yourself down with a bunch of packs. So if you're not prepared, but you do have one of those in your garage, grab it.
So I want to get back to the prophecy thing. I still can't stop thinking about it. Sorry for all the people who are wanting to listen to prepping stuff.
No, let's do it.
Our friend Adam Eberts just posted, there simply just isn't going back. And in thinking about that phrase, I think that's kind of how I feel is we've been on the, I've thought Ezra's Eagle was going to happen this whole time, but there's still a part of you that's kind of watching and like, is it really going to happen? Yeah. Like, I think I told you, like, if Ezra's Eagle doesn't happen, I'm forever a nothing ever happens guy from that point on.
Yeah.
And when these kinds of events happen, it's like, it really does feel like that. It's like, we can't, there is no going back to how things used to be now. Like we are accelerating forward into like uncharted territory, which is exactly what all the prophecy stuff gets into and it's about.
So we've talked about this. I've shared it on the show. I'm going to share it again because I think, it's another example from Ezra's Eagle. So you have Ezra's Eagle that basically says that Biden won't complete his presidency, that Trump won't be a president because he's never heard from again. And so you have the eagle head, the first eagle head kind of steps into rule, and everybody's got different ideas on what that eagle head is. My idea is the correct one, but that's okay. We'll find out in a year from now. No, just kidding. But in addition to Ezra prophesying of that, I'm going to go back to, I know I bring it up probably like weekly on this thing, I'm going to go back to Isaiah chapter 7. So Isaiah chapter 7 is a situation where there's a conspiracy against Ahaz, the king of Judah. And Isaiah, the prophet, is told to go talk to Ahaz and prophesy to him. And number one, tell him to not be afraid, but to have faith in the Lord. And then the Lord gives Isaiah a sign. And he says, ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God, ask it either in the depth or in the height above. So this is Isaiah 7, chapter 11. And Ahaz responds and is like, I'm not going to tempt the Lord. And so Isaiah tells Ahaz, okay, here's what the sign is going to be. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and shall bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. What does that bring to mind? Well, first and foremost, it brings to mind the birth of Jesus Christ, the literal condescension of God to humanity to live life here with us. And so we think of that and we go, oh yeah, okay, that's the sign that God gave to Ahaz. Well, Ahaz is like 600 BC ish. And so what good is that sign for him? This is about an international conspiracy and an invasion that's going to take Ahaz out as the king. So why does he care about that? And then Nephi, the Book of Mormon prophet, quotes this. And of course, Christ multiple times in 3rd Nephi says, study the words of Isaiah, for they are for your good. And they apply to those in the last days. I'm thinking of 3rd Nephi 20 and 3rd Nephi 21, which we talked about last week, and 3rd Nephi 22. So these prophecies of Isaiah are for our day. And so Nephi quotes it. So well, it's Jacob quoting it, I believe, where he's talking about the last days. Okay, so has there been a sign of a virgin conceiving and bearing a son in the last days? It aligns with the Revelation 12 sign, which happened in September of 2017, right? Okay, so 2017. This prophecy goes on to say, butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. That's Isaiah 7:16. When does a child know good from evil? At the age 8. That's why Abraham was commanded to circumcise the boys at 8 days old, so that they would know to baptize them at 8 years old. So the age of accountability is 8. Well, if you take 2017 plus 8, where does that get you? Anybody good at math?
That's the same year that kept coming up in all of the stuff last week. What a coincidence.
2025, right? And so I think the land will be forsaken of both her kings, that we won't have Trump and we won't have Biden. And I think this is an additional testimony to Ezra's eagle. We can also look at 3rd Nephi, chapter 6, chapter 7, which we also went through last week, and it aligns very, very well. We can look at the kings of Israel, the kings of Judah in the Old Testament, and that lines up very, very well, specifically with Utah and Spencer Cox, and that we will have one more governor after Spencer Cox, and that will be it. So all of these things are kind of coalescing for the same time frame, and it's mind-boggling. It's pretty crazy.
There's only one way forward from here, and it's Barron Trump.
Chris is teeing me up because he knows I've been wanting to talk about Barron Trump. And so I actually have some notes to share today. And maybe now is the time. What we should do, let's talk about Barron Trump and some of the stuff that it's kind of creepy. It's kind of weird how it lines up. And I love it. I'm just geeking out about it. So I'll share some of that. And then let's get into, I've been studying lately about how we survive all of this, because there are examples multiple times throughout the scriptures of when Israel was preserved. Not all of Israel, but a remnant was preserved. And the remnant, the word remnant, brings us back to Joseph, who was sold into Egypt. And what was left of Joseph that they gave to his father Jacob? A piece of his coat, a remnant of his coat. And that remained of Joseph, and that's a type and sign of things to come. So I've gathered some scriptures that point out who survives all of this and how they survive all of this. And I think we can enjoy that. Let me switch over to my notes about Baron. So the backstory on this, and Chris, while I'm pulling this up, do you want to pull up some of the tweets that you have handy? Because I think you mentioned to me, you're like, dude, since you started talking to this, everybody's like, it's becoming a thing. It's becoming a whole movement.
Mitch told me this theory way before this meme started, way before it.
I'm probably wrong, but it's a fun little thing anyway. Let me pull up some notes I'll share here. Okay, so actually, before I share those notes, I got to tee it up. One of the things that I've researched for decades now is the Assyrian. So as I started to study Isaiah and really become familiar with it, trying to be obedient to what the Lord asked us to do, to search the words of Isaiah, there's this theme all throughout Isaiah that talks about the Assyrian. The Assyrian is going to come. The Assyrian's going to wipe out all of the men. It's going to take over the land. He's going to make his way to Jerusalem, and he will not succeed at taking over Jerusalem. And the Assyrian of Isaiah's time, his name is Sennacherib. And you can look him up on Wikipedia. There's a whole thing about Sennacherib. Many of the ruins that they found of ancient Assyria depict Sennacherib. So we actually have carvings that show what he looks like. We have stela that are like accounts that say, here's what Sennacherib did. Here are the peoples that he conquered. He was king of the world at the time. And all of the world was subject to Sennacherib at one point. Not all of the world, but everything that's covered in the Bible. Sennacherib took over Syria. He took over the northern kingdom of Israel. He took over Judah. And the only place that he didn't take over, and all of the outlying region, the only place that he didn't take over was Jerusalem. And that's actually documented in the stela that say that Sennacherib went to Jerusalem, but he didn't overtake it, and he got sent back home. So again, as we look at the prophecies of Isaiah and the scriptures, and the Lord telling us in the last days, study the prophecies of Isaiah because they apply to you. And Nephi quoting Isaiah and saying, I can't tell you what was revealed to me. John has to reveal that to you, but let me share you let me share what Isaiah saw. So Isaiah was talking about these last days, and he keeps bringing up this Assyrian, that the Assyrian is going to invade our land, the land of Joseph, and is going to wipe out all of the men, utterly destroy all of the men, and he's going to make his way to the tops of the mountains, and that the survivors will flee to the tops of the mountains before we are liberated, and the Assyrian gets sent back home and has to go to Europe to continue his work over there. But the Western Hemisphere will be sealed off from the Assyrian. Okay, so who was Sennacherib, and why are we talking about Barron Trump? Let me share my screen here. You can tell I'm a little bit passionate about this because it's just so flippin' fun. Most people watch, I don't know, football. I do this kind of stuff. It's just a blast. Okay. So Sennacherib, his dad was an emperor. Barron Trump, his dad was president. Okay. Sennacherib was not a son of the first wife. We think he was the son of the third wife, maybe the second wife. Barron is not the son of the first wife. It's kind of interesting. Sennacherib had two older brothers that didn't take the throne. Normally, whoever the king is, it's the oldest son that takes over the throne. Well, that wasn't the case in Sennacherib's case. He was the third son, not of the first wife, and he took the throne. Barron has two older brothers, and those two older brothers are from the first wife. Barron is from the not first wife. I think Melania is the third wife, right? Sennacherib's father had headquarters in Babylon, which was the financial capital. Nineveh, which was the governmental capital. And then at the end of his reign, he built a place in a small town, a palace in a small town called Dur Sharrukin. And you can look up Dur Sharrukin on Wikipedia. DUR-SHARRUKIN. He built a palace there, and it basically put that place on the map. Baron Trump's father has had 3 headquarters. The first and obvious one is New York City, the financial capital of the world. When he was elected president, of course, he had a headquarters in Washington, D.C., which is the governmental capital. And then after his reign, or near the end of his reign, he built a palace in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and put that town on the map. This is a lot of coincidences so far. This is quite a bit. Sennacherib's father was killed trying to quell an international conspiracy. Will Trump be taken out trying to quell an international conspiracy? Maybe what we're seeing right now is that indeed, where Trump fought against the powers, the deep state, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, the uniparty. And I think if you ask Trump's followers, he definitely fought against those things. And is he being taken out as part of an international conspiracy? I think so. I think we could probably, most of us can agree about that. Sennacherib's father tried to take out Babylon. So Babylon, the financial capital, was rebellious against Nineveh, the governmental capital. And Sennacherib's dad went in there and tried to wipe them out. His name was Sargon II, I think, Sargon II. And while he did some damage to Babylon, he eventually failed and turned around and left, and never to return, never was able to get Babylon to fully submit. But Sennacherib, when he became emperor, he went in and he wiped out Babylon, destroyed the whole thing, like didn't spare anybody. He tore down all the walls. And, now in Baghdad, Iraq, which is built in the same place as Babylon, you can see portions of ancient Babylon remain, but they're mostly just like walls that were wiped out, taken down. And he wiped it out. In fact, not only did he wipe it out, but he changed the river so that it would flood it out and wash it out to just completely destroy it. According to the meme, Barron will rise up. I put father in court in New York City. So you've got New York that's fighting against Donald Trump. Will Barron raise New York City someday? And the meme definitely says so. Sennacherib was tall. Barron is like insanely tall. He's like 6'8" or something like that at 18 years old. Sennacherib is used to, the word stout is used to describe him, which in the 1828 dictionary equates to, which is the dictionary used in the King James Version, like translating that language into language we understand. Strong, lusty, bold, large, proud. I don't know Barron personally. I don't know, if he's lusty, bold, or proud. He certainly is large. And Sennacherib conquered everywhere except for Jerusalem. And the meme says that the scriptures say that the future Assyrian will conquer everywhere except Zion. And so if with all of that being said, I mean, I don't know if that's 10 to the 37th power, but that's a lot of things lining up. Basically everything that you can find out about Sennacherib from books, from online articles, any archaeological findings, you can just go through and be like, wow, that sounds like Barron Trump. That sounds like Barron Trump. So Chris, if you're ready, you want to share some of those memes that people are, the movement that's appearing on Twitter?
Yeah, let's do it. Meme number 1.
Love it. This is actually a meme account, right? So everything this guy posts is like Barron, the future emperor of the world.
That's like entirely dedicated to that. So we have that one. Oh, I just cut the sharing. Sorry. We've got Andrew Tate talking about it. He says, Trump forever president, ruler of the United States into eternity, and then his sons to take over as ruling dynasty class. Barron is tall enough to standing knee any future world leader in the jaw.
That was actually surprising to me. Whenever you have somebody who is a product of the machine that carries quite a bit of clout saying stuff like this, it's like, okay, this is pretty legit. Like, he might just be jumping on the meme, but I don't know. I think it's like, let's prepare the minds of the people for this. And it reminds me, so did you guys see the Robert De Niro rant in New York City?
Yeah.
So they did a press conference and they put Robert De Niro at the podium. And there were like 37 microphones in front of him. It was crazy. And he goes on this rant about how Trump, if he takes the presidency, will never relinquish the throne, and it'll be the end of our democracy, which we don't have a democracy. That's another topic. But it was really interesting how he planted that idea in the minds of the people that if Trump takes office, he will never leave. And here we are talking about generational, like, emperorship with Barron. Is this this is the same meme account?
You have Trump taking Barron to meet with Elon.
Oh yeah, you sent me that one. That's kind of weird. He was trying to recruit Elon as an advisor. Yeah, White House advisory role.
So yeah, I don't know. The meme is out there that Barron is going to be the emperor of America. He is America's Caesar.
Well, there's certainly
He didn't actually exist, by the way.
Caesar didn't exist. Okay.
Well, we'll have to get into how the Roman Empire was fake.
All right, sweet. There is a big enough, passionate enough following of Trump that it's kind of creating a vacuum. If Trump is taken out in any way, if he's thrown in federal prison, if he's, not allowed to be inaugurated as president after having won the election, whatever scenario there is, there's going to be a huge vacuum where followers of Trump will be looking for a solution, saying, this is not just, what do we do? And that's a very easy vacuum to fill for someone like Barron, who says, my dad was treated unjustly. Yes, he made some mistakes, but he was treated unjustly. Follow me and we'll make this right. And we will march into DC. We'll march into New York. We'll, punish all the blue states. We'll drain the swamp. You could amass a very, very powerful army if you filled that vacuum. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, you just look online right now with the news of Trump being found guilty and all the energy that's behind it. It's a lot of energy to capture and use towards whatever you need to use it towards.
Yeah. I'll say, I hope that none of this happens, right? I hope that we have an uncontested election, and we have a president, and the dollar normalizes, and the economy gets better, and we're all able to buy new Cybertrucks someday or whatever it is, and everybody's happy. But
Toyota Hilux, that's what I want.
Yeah, well, we can't have those because the GM and Ford lobby have made them illegal because they would be out of business.
We're going to let them in when we win.
There you go. Yeah, there's no going back. I don't.
It's crazy. You are getting to watch prophecy be fulfilled in real time. It's insane.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
So I have to add to this just a thought, because I was watching the podcast from you, Chris, and Leland, and I loved what you guys were talking about with the whole concept of like the combination, the secret combination. And you mentioned, Mitch, like it was back in 1860 or something like that. And the thought that I had was just how it was weird to feel excited. Like you guys were talking about how you're excited about it. And even I think Leland mentioned, like, yeah, it can feel kind of doomsday to some people. But if you're looking at the prophecies, and if you're looking at the scriptures, and you're listening to the prophet, it's super exciting right now. And I loved what you guys said about President Nelson, talking about, he's not talking about all the horrible things that are going to happen. He's talking about the things you just need to do. Follow Christ, go to the temple, like do those basic things, and you're going to be protected. Your family's going to be okay. you're going to see a lot of insane, marvelous things happen around you. But I had the impression, like, yes, like we just need to stay on the right side and we're going to be okay. And anyway, that was just something that stood out to me from that podcast as well.
Yeah. Like the episode we recorded yesterday is all about propaganda and mind control and psyops. And I think that's important to remember, because as this stuff is happening, the secret combinations are going to use it to try and deceive you and capture you away from God. They want you captured for Satan, right? So it's important to always keep your focus on Christ and the gospel, because that's the only way through. And there's going to be a lot of things that happen to try and pull your focus away from that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. That's actually one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today. There's a prescription and a number of examples in the scriptures for how to survive these times. And obviously the modern prophets and apostles are telling us, here are the things that you need to do in order to survive all of this. And I'm grateful for all of that. I have so many comments from people when I start posting prep stuff. Like I posted about these human organoids. Did you see that post? Where basically they're taking stem cells and growing little brains, and then they put 6 of those together in a computer, and the computer outperforms any GPX processor or anything like that, and which is super freaky to me. I'm like, dude, that is messed up. So I did that video, and people are like, Mitch, why are you always scared? Why are you always afraid? Why do you speak? Well, I did say in that post, we are doomed, because that's the kind of stuff that dooms you, people are like, why are you afraid? And so I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, are we afraid? Like, are we scared? And we're not really, I don't think. I mean, I talk about this stuff to wake people up, in our Come Follow Me this week, where Alma the Younger gets visited by an angel who I think is Abinadi, and told to repent. Alma the Younger is like, I thought I was going to be cast off. Like all of that fear and that shame and that guilt of like, crap, I'm screwed, is what caused him to, that doom, that despair caused him to say, well, what about Jesus Christ? He might be able to save me. And it was through Jesus Christ that he was able to change. And so I kind of look at it the same way. If people need to be made aware of this stuff, if they're busy watching their sports and listening to their Taylor Swift or whatever, and they're focused on, the next car they're going to buy, it's like, maybe we need to tell things like they are, so that people have that sensation of, oh, I need to turn to God. And I actually think that's why the prophets have foretold calamities, because God uses prophets. He will try to compel people to be humble if they don't come themselves and humble themselves. And so that's kind of a good segue into a series of scriptures that I'm going to share here. So let me hop over to my other window here. So the first example that I have is right before the Savior came to visit the Nephites in the Americas. This is 3 Nephi chapter 6. This is before all of the problems. So, well, this is where things really go bad in 13 and 14. So 3 Nephi 6, 13, some were lifted up in pride, others were exceedingly humble. Some did return railing for railing, while others would receive railing and persecution and all manner of afflictions, and would not turn and revile again, but were humble and penitent before God. And verse 14, and thus there became a great inequality in all the land, insomuch that the church began to be broken up. Yea, insomuch that in the 13th year, the church was broken up in all the land, save it were among a few of the Lamanites who were converted unto the true faith, and they would not depart from it, for they were firm and steadfast and immovable, willing with all diligence to keep the commandments of the Lord. I love the language that Mormon uses there, because he uses firm, steadfast, immovable, and willing with all diligence to keep the commandments of the Lord. He's like, guys, these people would not budge. They would not turn away from the truthfulness of the word from the prophet. They were solid. And so we need to resolve to be like these guys. And if we look at 3 Nephi chapter 8, again, there were all these problems, right? In 3 Nephi 7:7, there was a great contention that the whole church fell away, the more part of the church, most of the church, and all the righteous people fell away. And did I get the wrong? Okay. Verse 3. So 3 Nephi 8:3, and the people began to look with great earnestness for the sign which had been given by the prophet Samuel the Lamanite, for the time that there should be darkness for the space of 3 days over the face of the land. So a prophet had predicted a sign, and the people were looking with great earnestness. And I think that's where I am. I think that's where all of our listeners are, where we're looking with great earnestness because we don't want to miss the sign. We don't want to fall away. We want to be steadfast and immovable. And then in 3 Nephi 10, it tells about the people. And there are a few other verses in 3 Nephi 6 through 3 Nephi 10 that talk about the people. And I'd encourage you to go reread those chapters and find the attributes of the people that survived all of the calamities. So verse 12 says, and it was the more righteous part of the people who were saved, and it was they who received the prophets and stoned them not. And it was they who had not shed the blood of the saints who were spared. That's really interesting to me. Like, that's a really low bar. All you have to do is not shed the blood of saints or stone prophets, just receive them, and you're counted among the more righteous part of the people. I think that's a really important key for coming days. We do need to listen to the words of the prophets and try to do what they're telling us to do, because that's what's going to allow us to be preserved. In the Doctrine and Covenants in section 133, which I would encourage you to read this over and over and over again and let it kind of gel and solidify in your brain. He says, the Lord says, let them, so Doctrine and Covenants, section 133, verse 12, let them, therefore, who are among the Gentiles, flee unto Zion. Let them be who of Judah flee unto Jerusalem, unto the mountains of the Lord's house. Go ye out from among the nations, even from Babylon, from the midst of wickedness, which is spiritual Babylon. But verily, thus saith the Lord, let not your flight be in haste, but let all things be prepared before you. And he that goeth, let him not look back, lest sudden destruction shall come upon him, which is a reference, obviously, to Lot's wife. But spiritual Babylon. So flee unto Zion, depart, go out from spiritual Babylon, from the midst of wickedness, and don't do it in a hurry. Like, you should be well enough prepared well beforehand to be able to say, okay, I'm done with Babylon. I'm out, and I'm going to flee to Zion. Well, what does that mean, flee to Zion? Well, it used to mean come to the U.S., come to Kirtland, come to Missouri, come to Nauvoo, come to Utah. Well, now fleeing to Zion means come to the stakes of Zion, wherever they are in the world. 1 Nephi 14 says that they'll be across the whole world. And that means go to church, be active, work on moving forward down the covenant path, get your temple recommend, attend the temple frequently, go visit your neighbor, serve your neighbor. Those types of things will get us into the place we need to be. And let not your flight be in haste, but let all things be prepared before you. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're building Dwelt, is so that people know where they're going and they can go there and be safe, or safer. So anyway, a phenomenal guide for how to do this. Okay. Let's go on to Isaiah 11. The Lord prophesies. He's talking about the remnant, and he says, and it shall come to pass in that day. So this is Isaiah 11:11. Shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And this is what I'm talking about, gathering to Zion. throughout all the world, whether you're in Assyria or Egypt or Pathros or Cush or Elam or Shinar or Hamath or on the isles of the sea, you can gather together, and the Lord will gather his people. Last week we talked about 1 Nephi chapter 21, where he says, I'll gather them together, and there won't even be enough room for us. There will be so many of us. Okay, I've got 4 more. Isaiah 10:20, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. So this is that transition from, okay, those who survived all of this stuff, those who didn't kill the prophets, who didn't shed the blood of the saints, who tried to keep the commandments, who followed the prophet, these are those who are escaped of the house of Jacob. And something happens where the house of Jacob, that remnant that is preserved, becomes powerful, incredibly powerful. And, a lot of people quote Isaiah 10:21 that says, and the remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. And they translate that into, this is aliens coming to fight our battles for us, or other people coming to fight our battles for us. I think it's us. And I could do a whole presentation on why I think it's us, but I think it's us, those who survive, those who are steadfast, are endowed with power. And that goes back to President Nelson quoted 1 Nephi chapter 14 a couple of conferences ago, where he said that the saints would be endowed with power. And, that brings us to Micah chapter 5, which talks about this remnant, the people who remain and what they do. Micah chapter 5, verse 8 says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver it. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thy enemies cut off. And Isaiah chapter 4 talks about, okay, so those who survive, those who are able to defend against their enemies, become something amazing and start producing great fruit. In Isaiah chapter 4, verse 2, in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. Ether 13 gets very specific and talks that this remnant, Ether 13:8, wherefore the remnant of the house of Joseph shall be built upon this land, the land where Ephraim was here in the Western hemisphere, shall be built upon this land, and it shall be a land of their inheritance, and they shall build up a holy city unto the Lord, like unto the Jerusalem of old, and they shall no more be confounded until the end come, when the earth shall pass away. And then it goes on to say, once we build this city and make it beautiful, and there's fruitful works that are happening, then the New Jerusalem can come down and dwell with us, and we'll be clean and will be numbered among the remnant of the seed of Joseph. And Mormon chapter 7, this is like at the very end of the Book of Mormon. I think this might even be the last writings we get from Mormon instead of Moroni. Let's see if that's true. Yeah, this is the last thing that Mormon says to us. He says, no, and he's talking to the remnant. He said, now behold, so Mormon 7:1, now behold, I would speak somewhat unto the remnant of this people who are spared. Know ye that ye are the house of Israel. Know ye that ye must come unto repentance, or cannot be saved. Know ye that ye must lay down your weapons of war, and delight no more in the shedding of blood, and take them not again, save it be that God shall command you. That actually goes back to Isaiah, where multiple times Isaiah warns us, gird yourselves and ye shall be broken in pieces. Align yourself with Egypt and you will fail. It's like, if we go to battle before we're supposed to, we're going to get destroyed. So Mormon has seen that, and he's like, guys, don't do it. Know that this is verse 5, know ye that ye must come to the knowledge of your fathers, and repent of all of your sins and iniquities, and believe in Jesus Christ, that he is the Son of God, and that he was slain by the Jews, and by the power of the Father hath he risen again, whereby he hath gained the victory over the grave, and also in him is the sting of death swallowed up. And that's what we need to do. We need to know who we are. We need to repent. We need to not fight, and we need to follow Christ. And that's the recipe. If we do those things, we don't shed the blood of the saints or kill the prophets. If we remain steadfast, we're going to make it. And it's going to be wild to see everything going on around us and still put our faith in Christ and know that we'll be saved from all of the dangers here in spite of having to go through them all, and that we can be eternally saved through following him. End of rant.
Well, and I think it will be a huge testament to the saints as well, that the world will look to us and see a people, thriving is definitely not the word, but that is relatively better off than the rest of the world is doing at that time. And so they'll be drawn towards that and seek answers as to why we are that way.
For sure. I'm going to share my screen here because this just got me so stoked. I know you saw this. This is Jim Rowland 15 on X. He says, I had a long family meeting with my wife and kids about much needed changes in our lives to improve physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Lots of future discussion to be had and action to take, but we agreed to cut soda and high fructose corn syrup and heavy food out immediately. Stop eating fast food regularly, cancel our Disney Plus and other streaming services and screen time in general, and replace that with healthy home cooking, more family activity time, scripture study, wholesome activities, gardening, etc. He says, we might dip our toes into extremism by getting some chickens. He says, I was worried I'd get more pushback, but everything went well. I don't thank the Lord enough for my amazing, supportive family. And I said, heck yeah, great example for the rest of us. And he said, that this happened after a weekend of listening to your podcast is no coincidence. Pretty flippin' awesome. And then he went on, he posted again. I don't know if I have the link. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But he did a follow-on post to that. I didn't save the link. Let me see if I can find it real quick. That's the problem with X is people post so frequently and so much great stuff that it's like, dude, I can't find that great post that I wanted to. Okay, here it is. Okay, I'll share this. He says, as an addendum to my previous post, I must say that all you fine Twitter folks have been a huge inspiration to me over the last couple years. I can say with a surety that your examples have pushed me to get myself and my family back to being active in the church, which has already blessed us beyond measure, and more. People love to focus on the negatives. I'm definitely guilty of it, and claim that LDSX, which is the LDS people on Twitter, pushes people away from the church. But my experience has been largely and overwhelmingly positive. So thanks y'all for being amazing examples to me. And we're seeing this over and over again. A lot of the people that we engage with on X are people who have come back recently to the church and are trying to build their families and get prepared and be this remnant. I'm stoked that we have a path to follow to be the remnant that remains, and that tremendous blessings, the most miraculous things are promised to us to preserve us and to help us bless the many, many people who are flocking to the banner of Christ. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere, and we have a great opportunity to be an example to them. Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
Man, between this show and Watchmen, you would think I would have that figured out by now, but
yeah,
apparently not. Yeah, I was just saying, it's amazing. We're lucky.
Yeah.
There's so much more to cover. We've got a lot on here, but
I was just sitting here thinking, like, that feels like such a nice place to stop, but I know we have a list a mile long.
Yeah.
Well, the sad thing is the list that's a mile long is a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's like Ashley Biden wrote in her journal abuse allegations against her father. I mean, and admitted that was her journal and her handwriting. I mean, that's a pretty heavy thing. We've got the Russians being told, okay, we're going all out. We've got, did you see that the COVID PCR tests came out? There was a study that said 97% inaccurate.
Yep, I saw that.
So I had a friend telling me the other day, yeah, I had COVID and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, there's a 97% chance that your positive test was wrong. So maybe you just had the flu or a cold or something like that. It's pretty crazy.
Pretty wild. Putin's place of residence in some Russian city is on fire.
Oh, wow. Well, speaking of fires, there's another chicken processing facility that caught on fire and millions of birds died, and it cut off, all those eggs are gone. And so there's going to be egg shortages. It's crazy.
It's a wild world.
It is.
It's just insane.
Okay. So how do we deal with this? What do you guys recommend with news that Trump's going to prison? Well, maybe Trump's been convicted. Who knows if he'll go to prison or if he'll even make it to the sentencing. What are you guys' recommendations on how to deal with this stuff? Like, what does this change what you're going to talk to your family about tonight or what you're going to do tomorrow or the next day? I know you guys are already doing all of the right things, but what would you recommend for others?
Oh man, I'm too tired for this question today.
So am I.
I'm like
sitting here
just
like,
give up. It's over. No,
go take a nap.
Yeah. It's just getting more serious. So it's the same things we're always talking about. You need a plan. You need to have supplies, prepare, try and have a place far away if you can. Clay Martin, he's just posting over and over again, like every day with every news story, but especially this Trump one. There's only one way out of this, and it's not pretty. And so you just need to be ready for what's coming because the end is amazing. And Babylon's gone and Christ returns and it's amazing. But between now and then, there's some things you better be ready for.
Yeah. Dan, what are your thoughts? I have some thoughts about what Chris said, but what do you think?
Yeah. I think it definitely feels stressful. That's the reality, right? And so I think it's important for everyone to draw upon what helps you to be calm. Whatever you got to do to just de-stress a little and be calm. If it's take a nap, great, take the nap, and then pull your family together and have a discussion about what's happening. I know there's going to be a spectrum of ages as well if you have kids. And so I think just trying to discuss what's happening with them so that they can be prepared when they go out to the world with friends and school and whatever. I think that's important. So just having a family council and discussing some of the things that are going on in the world, but then talking through some of the things we just went through with the scriptures and what it says you need to do to really protect yourself through all the turmoil around you in the world. And so that's what I would suggest is just re-listen to this podcast, go through everything that Mitch just outlined in the scriptures. That's what I want to do is just dig into it deeper. And then the thought I had was just getting into the scriptures and starting to look up the sections that jump out that are positive. To me personally, that's going to help me just be, I guess, calm and confident and excited as I focus on those types of scriptures and that type of prophecy instead of all the doom and gloom around me. For me personally, I had to get off of X for a couple weeks. I was on there too much, Twitter, right? Just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you get sucked into it, and then it gets heavy and depressing. And so that's just something I had to do, was just pull away from it for a couple weeks, take a breath, and I found myself feeling just more confident and hopeful and positive. And I found my mind turning more towards the scriptures and focusing on those types of things that really I should be focusing on. I probably should schedule some time to go to the temple and, take my wife and really go and ponder things and try to understand and seek guidance on what God wants me to do personally in this situation or in this time of existence. So I think those are just some thoughts that come to my mind quickly.
I love it.
I think you need to more than ever, you need to prioritize the things that matter most. When I said that statement of I'm tired, so just give up, I don't mean give up the fight. It was more like give up on normal life. Like, why are you still going to your job?
Yeah.
Like and so, but I think more and more people are feeling that way. We've talked before about this idea that there's this tension because everybody knows things are bad and falling apart, but they're not bad enough that you can stop like living in the system. You still have to go to your job. You still have to like do all those things, even though at some level it's like, this doesn't matter and it's probably going to end soon, but I still have to do it. And so it's this weird tension. And I think more and more people are feeling that now. And it's getting to a point where people might just eventually be like, why am I participating in this at all? I'm out. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to my job. And in that situation, I think it's more important than ever to really focus on the things that actually matter.
Yeah, that's good. Both of you talking reminded me of DNC section 89 or 87. This is you may recognize it as the prophecy about the Civil War that the Lord basically said the rebellion's going to happen at South Carolina, and then this war kicks off, and then it doesn't end there. He says that will be the start of the end of all the nations. Like lots of war will be poured out upon all nations beginning at this place. And that's being fulfilled, will continue to be fulfilled. And in verse 6, so DNC, Doctrine and Covenants 87, verse 6, and thus with the sword and by bloodshed the inhabitants of the earth shall mourn, and with famine and plague and earthquake and the thunder of heaven and the fierce and vivid lightning also shall the inhabitants of the earth be made to feel the wrath and indignation and chastening hand of an almighty God, until the consumption decreed hath made a full end of all nations, that the cry of the saints and the blood of the saints shall cease to come up into the words of the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath from the earth, to be avenged of their enemies. And then this verse is what I thought of. Wherefore, stand ye in holy places and be not moved. Think about the steadfastness that we read in 3rd Nephi, verse 6, that they were steadfast. What that say? Steadfast. They were firm, steadfast, and immovable. So stand ye in holy places and be not moved until the day of the Lord come. For behold, it cometh quickly, saith the Lord. Amen. So standing in holy places, I think that's why President Nelson told us in his last talk, go to the temple regularly, because we need that respite. We need that time away from Twitter. We need that time away from our jobs. We need that time away from just all the ridiculousness that's happening around us, standing in those holy places so we can receive the light of inspiration, the gift of the Holy Ghost, and receive the revelation for what we need to do. One of the things that, you brought up Clay Martin, as you normally do. But I was telling these guys, I'm getting people coming to visit my place to see Dwelt and catch the Dwelt vision and make buying decisions about Dwelt pretty regularly now. We're getting people filling out the membership form online saying, yes, I'm interested, contact me. People are coming down. I have people coming down in a couple of days. And, people are looking for, how do I establish a holy place? Like, yes, I want my home to be a holy place, but outside of that, when things get unholy around me, where do I go? And people are looking at homesteading and buying property or moving and creating a family compound. But I think we are seeing a lot of people ready to take action through inspiration and through, just being done with Babylon, which DNC 133, Doctrine and Covenants section 133 tells us to do, to leave that spiritual Babylon. And we're supposed to stand in holy places. So that's great stuff. And that is probably how we end this episode. Chris, you're on mute again.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Sorry.
place to end.
I love it. It's a great place to end.
Awesome.
I'm going to throw one conspiracy out, though, because I can't help myself.
Okay, let's hear it.
Donald Trump Jr. just pointed out that the sentencing is 4 days before the Republican convention.
What? Dude.
I mean, that seems like quite the coincidence.
Yeah, they can't nominate him. They can't wait until after, because then he might be the nominee. But if they sentence him before, then he won't be the nominee.
The Republican Party can still choose someone else.
Yeah. Nikki Haley, 2024. Wow. Well, with that news, I really do need to go to the temple. Like, I'm going to go schedule my regular appointment and make that happen. Yeah. Crazy.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on X. Make sure you chime in with questions, comments, and your thoughts. If you want to check out Dwelt for you and your family, go to dweltsafehavens.com, and we'll see you online. Great stuff.
See ya.